All right, so I watched Hot D season 2, episode 2, and it was pretty solid. So, this episode is obviously dealing with the aftermath of episode 1 when the baby got unalived. Very tragic situation, very disturbing. And the beginning of this episode is no less disturbing because they go off on this weird carriage ride trying to capitalize on the death of the baby, and they like sewed the baby's head back onto its body, and they're like displaying it to the people to be like, wow, we're victims here, our baby got killed. It's just weird the way that Otto Hightower is like, guys, we got to capitalize on the death of this baby. It's so weird the way that they handled it. Um, yeah, this like it is. It's like Otto Hightower is such a well written character because like you do kind of believe that he is earnestly just trying to like do what's best, what he views as best for the kingdom. Like I do feel like that is ultimately his intentions, but he's willing to go about it in slimy ways that make him seem ultimately self-serving. I don't know. He's such a he really is such a slimy character in general that but you feel but I do also feel like his sliminess is done at least in his mind with a righteous cause. Um but yeah, they go on that carriage ride of despair that is just disturbing to look at. Um the king is obviously big mad because his son died. He's not making. He decides to not make the best choices in the situation. He hangs all the rat catchers because they interrogate the guy, one of the guys, and and he's like, I had a rat catcher with me. Can't possibly say who though. So they just end up. The king ends up killing all the rat catchers. Um, Obviously not a great, not the best move. And I do really like this because I mentioned in the last episode that the king the king is not necessarily like that bad of a guy. Like you kind of look at him and you're like, okay, you're gonna be another Joffrey. But you see in the first episode of this season that he's not that bad of a kid. You know, he's like actually like earnestly trying to do what's best for like the villagers that are like coming to him with requests. And you even have Otto Hightower being like, "Hey, you can't give him all the sheep back. We kind of need the lambs." And it's like in real time he's like learning that being a king is like hard and stuff and you can't just like appease everybody. um but it really does feel like the death of his son is turning him into like a bit of a tyrant. And you see him make that take that first step of murdering all the rat catchers because it's going to inevitably lead to like the guy that did it dying, right? And you got to see the close up of the guy that was the accomplice in the murder. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that character goes. I also kind of like what they did with Aegon because he has that moment where he's being consoled by we'll say the sex worker, and they kind of he's also like more overtly a asshole, but you actually like see in this moment that he obviously like feels shitty for obviously for like the death of his, I guess, nephew. It would be, yeah, nephew. But aside from that, he also mentions that he feels like genuine remorse for killing Rhaenyra's kid, which is just interesting. I never necessarily would have expected this character to feel that way. So I kind of like how they're flipping the two characters around a little bit, where like the other kid who doesn't come off as bad is kind of breaking bad in a sense and becoming a bit of a tyrant king, and then you have the other guy who was very much a Joffrey like character, kind of softening up a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if they end up going in completely different paths or if they kind of come to an equilibrium where, you know, where maybe neither of them are Joffrey clones. I feel like that might actually end up being what happens. Um, but yeah, it all kind of leads up to the king having or talking with Otto Hightower, and Otto Hightower basically roasting him, being like, "Boy, you're a fool." At one point, he's like, "You're trifling." um, and it's one of those things where it's like nothing you're saying is wrong, but you're also a moron for saying this to the king, like being this much of an asshole to him. Like you're not wrong to be, but it's also not a shocker when the king is like, "You're fired." Otto's hubris has caused him to be fired twice in this show, which is funny. And then the king does like the dumbest thing in the world, which is making Sir Kristen the new hand of the king. So silly. It's like you'd think he would give the pin to the foot fetish guy, right? Like you'd think, but no, Sir Kristen, who just also made a really dumb decision in sending the twin off to kill Rhaenyra. It's like, okay, bro. But obviously he's a kid. He's angry. He's not going to make the smartest choices. And yeah, and then on the other side of the show, you have like Rhaenyra. She's obviously dealing with like all these accusations and whatnot. Definitely feel bad for her because she's like, I'm grieving my own son. Why you really think I would go out and kill another innocent child? Like, no, I didn't do it. And then not even the people in her council believe her. And then obviously she snuffs out that Daemon is the one that did the order or whatever. And she's like, "You suck." Well, I guess she doesn't actually tell him to leave. He leaves on his own volition, which is interesting. So we'll see what he does. It's obviously they also bring back all the baggage of Daemon just being mad that he's not the king because he feels he deserves the throne. And she's like, "Do you take me as your queen or whatever?" And he just like doesn't say anything. I think what happened. I think he ends up saying how. No, he ends up, I feel like, blatantly talking about how he deserves the throne or whatever, right? So yeah, they obviously have a complicated relationship. It's creepy because he's her uncle. So there's like way too much sexual tension there that makes me uncomfortable. But yeah, he ends up leaving. I feel like I've heard somewhere that Daemon is gone for most of the season. So I actually think he's not going to be back for a minute, which I don't like because he is a great character. But hopefully he ends up coming back with a vengeance in some way. But yeah, no, it's a really good episode. I think it deals with the aftermath well. Oh yeah, obviously you have the great scene with the twins fighting. I definitely lost track of who was who. I'm not gonna lie, because it's like even at the end, it's like you think that the Eric guy won, right? The Rhaenyra's bodyguard. You'd think that he won, but it also could be the other guy because he stabs himself at the end. It could be Eric, basically saying like, "Hey, nobody's gonna believe me, even that I am Eric. So I'm just gonna kill myself so that just to be safe here." Or I feel like it could also be the other guy that maybe feels like guilt for killing the queen, as well as killing his own brother. I don't know. I feel like it wasn't clear who ultimately was the victorious in that at the end. But yeah, really well directed episode in general. I feel like all the camera work was like actually pretty good. Like there was interesting camera work. There was like pretty long takes that I feel like allowed a lot of the performances to shine as well. So overall, I actually thought the episode was pretty really well directed. So yeah, enjoying the show so far. I think it continues to be really great. Hopefully, it continues this pace and whatnot. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.